Gator won the toss. He deferred. So I will receive. Question 1.
Here we go. Coach Deion Sanders does it again. Him and his Colorado Buffaloes. Can they keep this up? Will Colorado be a factor in the Pac-12 race?
Yes, they will be a factor in the Pac-12 race, which has turned into the most interesting conference in the country in its final year. But part of the question is, can they keep this up? And through 2 games at 2-0, how about Travis Hunter? 274 snaps. 274 snaps at corner and wide receiver. Now, I'm not going to say this isn't going to work, but I am going to say nobody's tried this before. There's a little bit of Shohei Ohtani here, like we've not seen this, and Shohei ended up hurt. Now, it's different. That's over a longer period of time. Can Travis Hunter keep this up? Because he's critical to both sides of the ball and their success. I wonder if Deion has to gear him back a little bit, because that's a huge snap count. We've never seen anything like that. I'm not saying it's doomed. I'm just saying this is kind of uncharted territory.
Yeah, I would think that he is going to pull back in the reins a little bit, but it depends on the game. Like this week they play Colorado State. They're not a very good football team, so he can pull back the reins. He doesn't have to play as much. But the problem with it that faces Colorado is that this is the year that the Pac-12 is actually not just good, but they're pretty great. Yep. They've got a bunch of really tough teams. I respect that they beat TCU to start the season, but it's clear that TCU is nowhere near what they were a year ago. They struggled with Nebraska in the first half and then pulled away and win by 22 points. That was nice. But when you've got games at Oregon, and then you got back-to-back weeks with Oregon, and then you come home against USC, and then later in the season you're at UCLA, and then home against Oregon State, then you finish the year at Washington State and at Utah, I think they're going to be a factor in the Pac-12 in that they may upset a team or two along the way that'll screw up those teams' chances. But as far as is Colorado a real contender in the Pac-12, I don't think they are. I don't think they have enough horses to win 10 or 11 games. I love this story, and I think it is successful what he's doing there because he had to do it. You come in fresh. This is going to be the new model of coaches that come into new programs is they're going to hit the portal really, really hard. But I don't know if they're going to have the charisma to snag the top players like Deion does.
I agree with you, Gator. I think they're going to play a factor as in the fact that they are going to upset some teams and play spoiler. But as far as winning the Pac-12, I don't think they're there yet. What he is doing, Deion Sanders and this team and Hunter and Sanders, the quarterback, his son, it's been truly amazing. And it's been absolutely so much fun to watch. The entire country's watching. They're getting ratings through the roof. But yeah, can they keep it up? Yes, but will they be a factor? Yes, but not as far as winning the division. Or conference, sorry. What team is the biggest disappointment so far just after 2 weeks, Gator?
I think it's Clemson. They lost 3 games last year. The year before, they lost 3 games. The year before that, they lost 2. And they start this season by losing at Duke. Dabo's got to adapt or he's just not going to get back to greatness. And I think when you look at a Clemson team and you're playing in the ACC and the schedule doesn't look like it's all that daunting typically, that was a big knock against Clemson. Well, they don't play anybody. Well, some teams are starting to wake up, and I don't know if Clemson's done enough to catch up. They got Florida State still. Miami had a nice game the other day, and Notre Dame and North Carolina are still on their schedule.
I'm going Texas A&M.
Yeah?
They got run by Miami last weekend. Texas A&M won 5 games last year. When NIL became a thing, Texas A&M went to the front of the class with the 12th man fund. And according to 24/7, they have 52 4 and 5 stars.
That's unbelievable.
Which is in the top 4 in college football. And they really got run off the field by Miami. Jimbo's at the beginning of a massive contract. The buyout's ridiculous. I think Texas A&M is the most disappointing team in college football.
This is a personal answer for me just because I thought Matt Rule would kind of get things going a little bit in Nebraska. And so for me, it's Nebraska. I mean, there's no shame in losing to Colorado, especially down, how talented, how tough they can be. But the loss to Minnesota was just same old Nebraska. And losing to Colorado, like I said, no shame necessarily.
But it was same old Nebraska in the first half of that game.
And Colorado did win 1 game last year. If you're in the Big Ten, I mean, I just expected a little bit more from at least a different Nebraska, but they're losing like the same way. And it doesn't matter who's coaching there or who's even playing.
It's a little bit funny.
All right, Iowa offensive coordinator Brian Ferentz has a clause in his contract. Iowa needs to average 25 points per game to keep his job. After 2 games, Iowa has scored 44 points. They're 6 points behind schedule. Will he make it?
Will he make it? So his dad, Kirk's the head coach, right? I mean, this whole thing is really weird. He's got to get to 300. It's the race to 300 points. What if late in the year they score a touchdown and they get to 298? And do we kick the extra point or do we have to go for 2 here to keep son the job?
Dad?
Yeah. Iowa's got Western Michigan this weekend, who gave up 48 to Syracuse last week. Brian Ferentz, if you don't get back on track this weekend, this is going to be close. This is going to be close. I got a touchdown from the defense, by the way. Those count for him.
Yeah.
So,
well, I was going to ask that, Doug.
Yeah, they count. They count. It's about the team averaging 25 a game. This is one of the most fascinating sub-stories to the college season.
I don't think they're going to get there. You look at the schedule. They played a non-conference schedule against Utah State and Iowa State, and they scored 44 combined. Yep. Not good. Like you just mentioned, they got Western this weekend, which should help them out in putting some points up there. But then it's the Big Ten schedule. It's just not going to – the Big Ten plays tough defense, and they slow things down. It's not like everything's up-tempo where you're going to get more possessions. Even though they're not playing Ohio State and Michigan this year, it's still – tough for them. I don't see it happening. They don't have enough offense.
No, they ain't going to make it. And if he's counting on defense to help him score points, he's in real big trouble. Yeah. It ain't happening, boys. Is Alabama's run of the SEC, their dominance, is it over?
I don't think it is. I think Nick Saban knows how to play the game with NIL, knows how to play the recruiting game. And look, this is a year where it's the first time in a while that you can say Alabama didn't reload. Right, they had a quarterback in Milroe who played a little bit last year, got his feet wet, but he's a project, and it's going to take some time. And it doesn't look like they have all the studs at all the position groups like they've had in the years past, where it was reloading. But I think it's just a 1-year hiccup for them. These guys get the experience. They'll load up in the portal because they're Alabama, and now they actually have positions where they can, let's get the best guy here and bring him here. Plus, I think Georgia's due for some comeuppance. Lots of smoke there that could turn into into a blaze and kind of burn it down a little bit. I don't like what Georgia's done off the field, and I think they're going to get nailed for it at some point. So yeah, I wouldn't count Alabama out. It's just that's going to be a down year for them.
I don't either. They have a quarterback issue, and they tried to get guys out of the portal. They ended up getting Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame, who I didn't think was particularly good, and they swung and missed at a couple others. But as long as Saban's there, the only way their dominance is over is if truly Saban is near the end, which he might be. He might be, but I don't think it's over.
I agree, Doug. I think Alabama's the only team I pencil in the SEC. I think you're going to have your Georgias and other schools come up and come down for 3-4 year, to compete with. Yeah, exactly, to compete with Alabama. But as long as Saban's there, I have total confidence that Alabama will get it back quickly if they ever lose it. All right, speaking of the SEC, if Georgia loses a game, could the SEC be left out of the playoff?
They might. Georgia's schedule, the non-conference schedule, is weak, and they probably can't rely on the SEC providing their typical strength of schedule reward. The SEC has played 9 Power 5 versus Power 5 games. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They're 3-6.
Oh.
And they've lost all the marquee games. A&M lost to Miami. LSU lost to Florida State. Florida lost to Utah. South Carolina lost to North Carolina.
Alabama lost to Texas.
Alabama lost to Texas. Wake beat Vandy.
Oh.
Then you've got their wins. Well, that's a loss. That's one of their losses. Mississippi State beat Arizona. Auburn beat Cal. And Tennessee beat Virginia. It's weird, but it looks like the SEC is a down year, and Georgia better run the table.
Well, I think it's a juicy idea, and I love the question, and I'm here for it, but no. I have a hard time thinking that they're going to be out with just one loss, even if it's in the SEC championship game. I think being the 2-time defending national champions, if you have a loss, you're still going to the playoff.
Yeah, I don't think SEC will ever get shut out of this thing. I feel like they're going to be represented by at least one, if not more. But this year, yeah, I could see, of course, you could see a scenario where it doesn't happen, but I don't think so. Our last one, 2 blue blood programs have sent early season messages, Texas and Florida State. Which one is more likely to make the playoff?
Well, I'm going to have to stick with the horse that I brought to the dance. Is that I'm mixing metaphors there, and I love it. And
When in Rome.
It's Texas. I said before the season began that they were my team. The Sarkisian was the coach of the year. I have Texas getting to the playoff, and you look at their schedule. Okay, they just knocked off Alabama in Tuscaloosa. That doesn't happen, and that just happened, and they won handily, by the way. You look at the rest of their schedule. They're home against Oklahoma. They're home against Kansas State. Those are the only 2 ranked teams they have the rest of the way. I think they have a great chance to run the table.
I think a Kansas game could be tricky, tough for them. But I also think Florida State has a couple tricky, tough games with Duke and Wake. I mean, Clemson might not be what they were. I like Texas better than Florida State. And seriously, bravo. That was a bold-ass prediction. You had Texas to the college football playoff and Sark Coach of the Year, which right now both are trending. Long way to go, but it's a good early call by you.
I got Texas, and it's because of their quarterback, Quinn Ewers, former Ohio State quarterback, Doug.
Yeah.
He's really, really good, man, and I think they could ride his once mullet to the playoff. He cut it off, though.
He did.
Maybe he's better for it.
All right, that concludes our college football questions for this week.